lovely people out there, Kevin from Pipe here, where we focus on productivity and pipeline for creatives. And in this video, we'll go through InDesign's PDF exports and look at the options available to us. And if you're an InDesign user, you have probably exported many PDFs before, but perhaps there are features you haven't noticed or something you haven't quite understood. Either way, hopefully this guide will provide you with a deeper understanding of it. To get us started, I prepared a document for us to export. And to export, we go to File, Export, or simply press Ctrl E. Now, there are two types of PDF exports, print PDF and interactive PDF. Interactive is best used when we work with digital documents and it's compatible with interactive features like forms and buttons. We'll quickly look at that at the end of the video, but first let's look at exporting PDFs for print. So we choose Print PDF and save. And now we get the export dialog that we're going to spend our time in. And we'll go through this from top to bottom. First, we have presets. This is very useful in my opinion. I have presets for making proofs, exports with bleed, without bleed, and specific ones from printing companies. And if you want to make your own preset, you just set everything up and choose Save Preset down here. And to load a preset, we unfortunately have to cancel out of this and then go to File, Adobe PDF Presets, Define, and in here you can press Load and then just locate the file. It will have the extension .job options and then just open. Then it should be added to the list. Next up we have standards. Let me just go back to the export dialog. And these are called X standards. Basically they are also presets that will make sure your PDF is compatible with a printing press. And if the printers have an old machine, they might, for example, want PDF X1A, but you probably don't need to use these unless they are specified by the printers, basically. And after that, we have compatibility. And if you choose an early version, you get large backwards compatibility with Acrobat, but sacrifice newer features not supported by those versions. And I don't think I've ever had to use this, but if some setting is grayed out, it might be because this is set to an earlier version. So let's move over to the sidebar over here. First up, we have General. And here we can do all the basic things as selecting which pages to include and whether it should be output as spreads or pages. And a tip when typing in a range, you can use commas to add multiple ranges or pages. So as an example, I could type 2 to 5 and then comma 7 and it will skip page 6. And we can also create separate files from each page by toggling this button here. The viewing options are handy if you, for example, select fit page and to up cover page. Acrobat or Reader will show the pages as spreads and make the first page a cover page. This doesn't actually change anything, it just sets a default viewing mode. These two here should be pretty obvious. The options are quite specific and I usually don't change much here, but if you want to create a PDF that is more editable, we can select Create Acrobat Layers, similar to InDesign layers, and up a list of these options and also a link in the description to the page. Lastly, Include is pretty self-explanatory. Simply check what you want, and if you don't know, you probably don't need it. Compression, basically your image quality, and we have three types of images: color, grayscale, and monochrome, which means bitmaps images really, as far as I remember. This works like this. You type in the resolution you want, and at what limit it will start to downscale images. And this means you don't need to scale images in Photoshop to be a reasonable size for PDFs. So if I want 300 ppi, and I set it to above 300, this means all images will be downscaled to 300 ppi, unless they are lower than that, of course. Then we have compression type. I've never had any issues with standard automatic JPEG, but if you do, there are other options. And next we have the quality. It's the same as when you export a JPEG from Photoshop. Lower, smaller file size, but more artifacting, basically. All three of these have the same options, but as you can see by suggested value, monochrome images need more resolution, and I never really changed this. And lastly, we can toggle compression of vectors and whether we want to keep image data outside of the cropped image frame. Basically, it's just options for reducing the file size if that's an issue. This is where you can add some print marks, and I exported a document where I thought I'd show you what all of these are. So crop marks are probably the most basic. It shows you where the trim box is, i.e. where to crop, and bleed marks show the bleed box. And registration marks can be used by printers to see alignment of their CMYK colors. And the color bars adds these reference swatches. And page info is down here. Pretty simple. So back to the export. This is simply the line weight of the crop marks and the offset from the trim box. And here are the bleed settings. If you're unsure about what bleed is or why we use it, check out this short. And we can either use the document settings or change it here. So lastly, we can toggle the slug area. This adds more space outside of the trim and bleed box where you can insert additional information. And you set this up in the document settings dialog in the same place as you set up bleed. Output is where we work with color, and if it's set to no conversion, the color space and profile will be whatever the images are set up as. And that's why it's easier to use conversion. Then you don't have to convert all your images in Photoshop. So simply put, the regular convert to destination might result in some color changing when converting, whereas preserve numbers try to preserve them more. And you can hover over these items and you'll get a description if you want to know exactly what it does. And I tend to always use preserve numbers. Then we choose our color profile. And as far as I know, it's a good idea to include the profile in the PDF. Here's a bit of a hidden feature. On the Ink Manager, we have this little dialog. And here we can see all the swatches used. And unless you're printing with spot colors like Pantone, you'll want to click this icon and easily convert them to CMYK color. And down here are extender settings, but to be honest, I've never ever used these. Another thing I basically never use, the advanced settings, but let's look at it anyway. You can choose to not embed more than necessary of the fonts used. OPI, I didn't have any clue what this was, but apparently an old feature for not including full-size images in the PDF and not a nail polish. Where I found this information, this particular author said he hasn't used this for 20 years, so we probably don't need to worry about it either. And that is, in general, a good point. There's probably a lot of things in these options here that aren't relevant anymore. Most people have the latest subscription-based software, and we don't need to worry about file size that much. Next, transparency flattener is used when the printers can't deal with transparency. And lastly, we can embed accessibility information. Security though can be quite handy, and here you can add a password to open the PDF, or you can restrict editing with a password, including printing, different kind of changes, disable copying of texts, and so on. Say for example you are sending proofs that you don't want to be printed, then you can disallow printing entirely. Last up we have the summary. You can see all your settings and potential warnings, and when we're done we obviously press export. If it's a big export, you can follow the progress by double-clicking the wheel up here in the right corner. And that was all for the print PDFs. It was quite a lot. Now we can take a quick look at interactive options. Like before, we have a general tab, and a lot of this is the same as what we just looked at. But a couple of new things. If enabled open in full screen, we can now set a timer before it switches the page, i.e. we can make a looping slideshow, kind of like in PowerPoint. And we can add page transitions as well. If you want to retain interactive elements such as forms, make sure this is set to include all. And by the way, if you'd like to explore more about these kind of features, check out my interactivity in InDesign's series. Compression here is rather easy, lossy or lossless, quality and resolution of images. And under advanced, we simply have the option to include some accessibility information once again. And lastly, under security, we can lock the file in the same way as we did earlier. Okay, that was a lot, but that was all for this time. Hope you learned at least something new and you found this video helpful. And I'll see you in the next video right here on CZ Pipe.